Welcome to the Stop Faking Fine podcast, a show that will empower you to finally show up for yourself. It's time to stop faking fine.
Shelley, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dana. I'm excited about this conversation.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to chat with you. Thank you for being here with me today. I am so excited to just unpack nutrition and really share your journey, because we've both kind of come to learn how important nutrition is and maybe what we didn't understand before. Not maybe, but definitely what we didn't understand before. So without further ado, let's dive on in. Can you share a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your story?
Sure. Hello, my name is Shelley Loving. I live in Texas and at the moment, and I have not always been a teacher of healthy eating and cooking. I was, a young mom trying to raise kids, doing the best I can, finding a recipe on Pinterest, buying the ingredients, making it, not thinking about healthy, thinking about survival. And then I married my best friend in 2010. No, I met him in 2010. We got married in 2014. No, we didn't. We got married in 2013, and on Super Bowl Sunday of 2014, so it was like 10 months after we got married, he had a massive heart attack, and he was 41 years old. And we thought he had the flu. He had what they call the widowmaker, because you don't typically feel the signs of a heart attack. Your arm doesn't go numb, your chest doesn't hurt in the beginning, and that's why it kills people, because people ignore the symptoms that it does give them. And so what we learned really quickly is really listen to your body. And we're really glad that he went to the doctor that day on Super Bowl Sunday, because if he hadn't, he would have died. So
on Super Bowl Sunday, he wasn't really feeling that well, and you guys thought that he had the flu?
We did. He had all the symptoms of flu, and it was flu season, 2014, when the flu was rampant back in those days. And then everything just kind of spiraled. He had fever, he had chills, he was pale, he was clammy, he had no energy. And we just okay, yep, flu, definitely flu. And we there, and they hooked him up to an EKG machine, and they immediately called an ambulance and had him taken to the ER to have a stent put in.
Yeah. That's bananas. But thankfully you went, and thankfully, I think it's really also surprising that they hooked him up to an EKG machine, right away, because that's not.
Here's what happened. 3 hours after we made the appointment, we actually got to the appointment because, we had to wait. And by the 3-hour time window, his symptoms had changed. So when we got to that doc in a box place, they said, "Mr. Loving, do you have any chest pain?" And my husband gently put his thumb on his chest, still laughing, still making jokes, and said, "Yeah, right here." And my eyes got as big as silver dollars. And I said, "Excuse me?" And he's like, "Well, it kind of does hurt a little bit right here." So that's when they hooked him up to the EKG machine, and he never lost.
And went to the hospital.
Yep. They put him lights and sirens. Yeah. All the things. Yeah.
Which is great. And I'm glad that you went, and then fast forward.
Grateful. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm on such a mission now, and we'll get into all that, but I want to be able to save as many lives as I can, not heart related, just health wise, because so many people are not listening to their body, and they don't understand how easy it can be to make some reversals with some small steps.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys left the hospital, and what transformed your journey at that point?
Wow. We just, we were humbled, and we realized that things needed to change. So we changed a lot of things in our life, and we ended up selling everything we owned and bought an RV and took off for a year and just kind of reassessed life and got back to the basics of what makes us happy, in an attempt to heal his heart. And during that passion is when I started kind of digging into, maybe we should change what we're eating. And I'm the cook in the house. So I started playing with food in the RV, and I started really enjoying it, not having a clue, Dana, what I was doing. I Googled heart healthy recipes, just like everyone else does when they have a symptom of anything. It doesn't have to be a heart. It could be anything, recovering from cancer. It could be anything. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, what should I eat?" And Google does not know what they're talking about. And it's very contradictory information. So when we got back from our RV adventures, I really took it seriously, and I decided to go to nutrition school and a holistic approach to helping my husband in the healing process. And I found my passion. It's like my life came back, my eyes wide open, my blinders off, my passion. I found my passion, and my husband vowed to me that he would try everything that I was learning. So as I would learn in school, I would apply it in the kitchen. I would learn, I would apply. I did this for a year. And I'll tell you what, every 6 months he had to go to the cardiologist for EKGs and blood work. And every time they improved, every single time. After 3 or 4 visits, so fast forward 2 years, the cardiologist is like, Mr. Loving, what are you doing? Yeah. And my husband gave him my business card. And at this point, I decided to make a business out of this. I'm like, you know what?
Right.
You're healing. You're healing. And I'm feeling good. Like there is something to this food health connection. And I'm like, yeah. And what I was learning, Dana, was so simple. I'm not, we're not talking sciencey dietitian stuff. We're talking about basic things you can do. And so I'm like, I got to create a business. This is my new passion. I'm going to heal the world. I was gung ho, and my husband thought I lost my mind. And the cardiologist said, well, you've completely reversed the damage to your heart at this point. Like you're in the 1 percentile of my patients that actually do the work and fix the problem and not being dependent on prescription drugs to do it.
I mean, so many things to unpack. Like if we go back to the very beginning, like what made you sell everything? Like you sold your house, you sold your business, you guys sold everything and decided we're going to get in this RV and we're going to go see the world for a year. Like how old were your kids at that point in time?
So our youngest son graduated high school in June of 15, and we sold and closed our house and took off the same day, August of 15. We did not mess around.
You were like, oh, you're going to college. Bye. We'll see you.
I will see you later. It's me time.
Oh my gosh. So then you guys tour the world or tour the country, right? In your RV. And at that point, did you recognize that stress was the problem? Like 100%. What were your decisions? What were your mental, walk me through that process to say.
It was a couple of things. Number one, stress was the number one thing that we wanted to fix first. We knew there was a lot to be done, but that's where we wanted to start because we had at that point we were entrepreneurs and still are, and have 3 businesses. And my husband was working more than he was relaxing and sleeping. And that was one of the factors. He was stressed to the max. He could not take on another project. And so we said, what's the answer to that? My husband said, I could actually die tomorrow. So we're going to go enjoy Florida, our favorite state, and see every beach that we possibly can with no plan of coming home. Like we had 3 months on the bookings for RV resorts.
Parks. Yeah.
But after that, we didn't have a plan. So we got ourselves all the way across the coast of the panhandle of Florida, went down the West Coast, went to Naples, went down to the Keys, came back up the East Coast and discovered a town called Juno Beach that we fell in love with. And we stayed there for almost a year. And that's when we were like, we understood, like we even look back at pictures, Dana, and we look relaxed. Yeah. We look happy. Not that we're not happy. We are now because we're kind of having balance now. Here we are 10 years later. But we just see the joy in our faces from making that drastic decision to basically stop life for a little while.
Right. Well, I think we all get to the place, and my story is very similar, that as your husband grinds through the 3 jobs and the 3 businesses and working, you assume you're 40. You assume that you'll have tomorrow to rest. Or, I mean, my husband used to say, I'll rest when I'm dead. And it's like, haha, maybe that was funny, but not really. Like it's really not funny. And so for you to have the opportunity to say, okay, you're stressed, you've had a heart attack, we have our eyes are wide open and we're going to make a change, I think is really applaudable. And now after that 1 year, what did you learn and where did you land? Where are you now?
Yeah. So personally, I'm a young mom. I was a mom in high school, actually. And so I had the last 21 years had been all about my children and survival. And I'm proud of that. I don't regret it. It has made me who I am today. But when I got to Florida, and I didn't know this when I was in Florida, but looking back, it was me time. It was actually time for me to be selfish. It was time for me to figure out who am I? What do I want? What makes me happy? And how can I live life to the fullest? And that my answer to that last question was, well, you got to stay healthy to do that. And because my husband had almost died, I realized that health had to be the center of our life. It had to become a lifestyle. In order for us to live how we wanted to live, we had to get back to the roots of, okay, how do we get healthy at this point?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I learned from adventures more than anything from a personal standpoint.
Well, and from a personal standpoint, as moms and at, midlife or whatever we want to call this stage of life, you do invest so heavily in your kids at the beginning. And I mean, not even at the beginning, like when they're toddlers, obviously they take a lot of time, but like throughout their entire youth, you're dedicated to doing that and you want to do it. Like you want to do that. But then sometimes we can pick our heads up and say, who am I and what do I want? And how can I take my gifts and talents and serve the world and help others on this journey of health, wellness, and prosperity, right? As you talk about your husband, he had the heart attack, right? He has a stent now in his heart, correct? Is that what happened? Yeah, he has a stent in his heart, and you have completely reversed every single thing. Like I want to like pause there for a minute and kind of like dive deeper. Like you've reversed all of that, and the one thing that you focused on was nutrition.
That was the thing that I focused on. He was responsible for, he had also had undiagnosed sleep apnea. So he got the CPAP and he wears that every night. And that's part of his lifestyle now. So we kind of had a pact. He's like, oh yeah, I'll do the sleeping thing. And I said, okay, I'll do this food thing. And 10 years later, we're still doing it. So it's and we also work at the stress, just like all of us. It gets out of control sometimes, but it will never go back to where it was ever because our life is much more important. So I think those were our three main factors. Stress, food, and then his sleep apnea. So to this day, I don't
know much about sleep apnea. So like, did he have sleep apnea before and then just ignore it?
Yep. 100%. Yeah.
And if you ignore the sleep apnea, like what does that feel like?
Yeah. So I would love to actually bring more awareness around sleep apnea because people don't understand that snoring's not funny. It's not funny at all. And here's why. So we learned after his heart attack what it does long term. So when people snore, if they have severe sleep apnea, they hold their breath in their sleep. So they hold it for like 30, 40 seconds, and then they do this gasping breath for air, and that it's a loud snore sound. And then they just do that on repeat all night long. Well, it's the reason it's so dangerous. What happens when you're not getting oxygen to your heart? Your body overproduces red blood cells. So red blood cells are what carry the oxygen to your heart. Well, when you're not getting oxygen to your heart because you're holding your breath, your body is overproducing red blood cells. Over time, those red blood cells thicken your blood and your blood becomes like motor oil in your arteries. So it can't move. So that is why sleep apnea is so dangerous. There are different cases and different severities, but my husband was an extreme case.
And it's not just snore. I think there's two separate things. Like snoring is one thing, but sleep apnea, it's the pause of when you're not breathing to the big gasp of breathing. And then do you think that, I mean, I'm no doctor and this is not medical advice, but do you think that, I mean, I feel like it would make common sense that led to the heart issue that he had.
Definitely. It was a culprit for sure.
Yeah. If you're ignoring the sleep apnea and then ending up with the heart attack. And we say like our lifestyle, like our genes, heredity and things like that might load the health gun of your life, but your habits really pull the trigger, right?
Much more.
Your ability to slow down and lean in and do something about it, right? Really matters.
Is your genes are not your destiny.
No.
It makes me aggravated when people use genes or hereditary stuff as excuses. No, you own that health. Own it and fix it.
I think it's something that just needs to be more awareness needs to be brought around that. And it's so easy to become have your identity be your problem. Like I have heart disease, so XYZ. And it's like, don't claim that. That's not yours to claim, but it is your responsibility if you choose to find the habits that are going to help unload the gun, take the bullets out of the gun for that specific ailment, and then find a lifestyle that works for you, which is what, I mean, when you and I first met, it was like, oh my gosh, yes, let's nerd out on the science of nutrition and all of the things, because I love that you took it upon yourself to say, all right, I'm going to change the way that we eat. Like when my husband died, I was like, okay, we are the healthiest people on the outside that we know. Like I'm healthy. He had a 6-pack, muscles, looked the part, the whole 9 yards. It's like, what did we miss in our version, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, our version of this is healthy? And more awareness around stress and inflammation and the impact that stress and inflammation have on our bodies. We're learning more and more about it, like as time moves forward. I crawled down a rabbit hole. I'd love to nerd out on the science of the gut microbiome and how the gut connects with the brain and how that interaction either raises or lowers inflammation. But it totally comes from nutrition. So tell me more about what you teach, what you do. I know that you have a group, don't you?
I do. So when I was going through nutrition school, I went to 2 nutrition schools and a culinary school. But when I was going through the first nutrition school, the biggest learning module or section in the whole school was around chronic inflammation. And I had, if you could do like the cartoon character where you have the giant light bulb above your head, that's what I had. It was just like all of the blinders had come off. All of the complicated theories have gone out of my head. And I was like, it all boils down to if I can get the inflammation down in his body, which by the way, whatever he was doing, I was doing too. So our bodies, if I can get the inflammation down in his body, then his body is set up as a beautiful tool to begin the healing process. But he can't heal if his body is chronically inflamed and his body is fighting chronic inflammation. And I was like, like +1 finally equaled 2 for me. And I was like, okay, this is it. I'm going to focus on chronic inflammation. So Dana, that's what I did for the next 2 years. And then that's when I created the business. I'm like, this is mind blowing how healthy we are, all because we just changed some foods in our diet.
It's mind blowing also how simple it can be. And this is what I love talking about, how simple it can be to eat to lower the inflammation. You just have to raise your own personal awareness. Like I 20 years ago ate to be fit. I mean, I've spent 30 years in the fitness industry. So like what I was always schooled at is lean protein, no carbs, salad with, nothing, like make it bland, no dressing, no nothing. Yeah. Count calories and you're healthy. And it's like, couldn't be the farthest from the truth because it's not addressing the inflammation in your body, even if it's just inflammation from like weightlifting and you are healthy and you're just inflamed because of that muscle mass. And I love how you shared that you are both lowering inflammation because like the list of ailments that come from inflammation is so long. So lowering inflammation for you will look different than lowering inflammation for me, which will look different than lowering inflammation for your husband. That's kind of a tongue twister. I'm like lowering inflammation. But like, yes, the end result can be so different in each one of us, but the path to get there is the same.
Thank you. So that's the basis behind my entire business is it doesn't matter what ailments, conditions, diseases, chronic conditions people have. If you focus on the basics of reducing that chronic inflammation in your body, you're setting up your body for a beautiful platform for healing to begin the healing process. And then take your protocols, whatever you want to do, whether that's medicine or if you want to, go to an acupuncturist, whatever your method is. But if you don't focus on that anti-inflammatory lifestyle, and I mainly do it through food, your body isn't going to be in that ideal place to begin healing. So it was just light bulb moment because what happened for me, Dana, I was doing all this for him. And what I realized during the process, all of these little symptoms I've had my whole life all went away. And I always said to myself, like, I've always had headaches, not migraines, but headaches, dull headaches my whole life. They hooked me up to an EEG machine in 1980 because I told my mother my head was twisting. That's how long I've had headaches. And and all these symptoms went away for me. And I was like, holy moly.
And you've been dealing with those symptoms though for 20, 30 years.
bloating gut, adult acne around my chin, joint pain at 35 years old. What else? Brain fog was a big one for me. And nobody knows they have brain fog until you don't have brain fog. It's hard to explain. And so all these
because
things,
you walk around kind of in a fog, and you're like,
you don't know you're in a fog.
Yeah. Isn't this just the way that everyone shares? And it, like the nutrition and like the science of the nutrition and the reason that it works is because you are feeding your gut different prebiotics, probiotics, and phytobiotics with the food. And that then sends different signals to your body, to your brain, to lower the inflammation in your body and therefore get rid of all of the list of side effects that come from that. Like I always talk about the cortisol lowering mocktail that I drink every single day because that's supercharging your gut with all the probiotics, prebiotics, and phytobiotics that you need. And you are accelerating your path to get rid of those side effects. But you have to follow that up, or ideally you follow that up with proper nutrition that's helping to keep that inflammation low and helping you really soar on that path to feel your absolute best.
Yeah. And I want to teach that you don't have to deprive yourself. Eating healthier, not healthy, eating a little bit healthier is still delicious. You don't have to be a vegan if you are great. But I don't preach a dietary theory. It's just eliminating some of those foods and reducing some of those foods that cause inflammation and then increasing the foods that reduce. There are foods out there that actually help you reduce inflammation. So when you can do both, reduce those inflammatory foods, increase the anti-inflammatory foods, your body's like celebrating and like having a rave inside.
What are your top 3 foods to lower inflammation?
Oh, that's a great question. So are you talking about foods that actually reduce inflammation?
Yeah. Like for you personally, like what are your top 3 go-tos?
Definitely leafy greens. So anything that's like leafy green and or a cruciferous vegetable. So like think broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, all of them have so many minerals and vitamins in them. Super anti-inflammatory. Another one is, one of my favorite spices, there's 3: cinnamon, turmeric, and ginger. Those 3 herbs are superfoods for breaking down inflammation. And the third one is berries. Berries are way up there in the anti-inflammatory world, especially blueberries. They're like little super power balls. They reduce inflammation.
Blueberries are super power balls. And the other thing about blueberries is that if you freeze them, which I think is mind blowing, they're actually more anti-inflammatory. So if you're into making smoothies and you want to put a handful of frozen blueberries into that smoothie, you've just 10x'd the anti-inflammatory properties that it has. I have been into health and wellness my entire life. I remember learning about the power of cinnamon when I was like 20, and I used to sprinkle it on my coffee, and I would like be proud of myself because I'm like, oh, it's anti-inflammatory and this is going to help my metabolism and, all these other things. And I just have to laugh at this moment in time because it's like, okay, good job, Dana, but you did not quite get it because you can't just sprinkle the cinnamon on there. You need a little bit more, like a tablespoon. Like you got to kind of get into it in order to receive the properties. But I think it's fun to talk through how you can.
Yeah. And it's not complicated. People have overcomplicated the word healthy and nutrition over the last several years. And I'm tired of that.
Yeah. And it does take a place where we're like, okay, I'm tired of listening to the rhetoric. I'm tired of, we can make a change, and then leaning in to say, okay, we're going to make a difference here. And this is what we're going to do. I've created a nutrition cheat sheet that is like super simple that allows you to build your plate one little morsel at a time with all of the things that will help you balance cortisol and inflammation. And I'll drop that in the show notes. But for you, you also have, don't you, you teach courses and classes on how to eat simply. So tell me more about that.
I do. So I have an online membership called On the Fork, and people, inside there, we have about 100 members, and we cook together live. We have over 100 anti-inflammatory recipes in there that also have how-to videos. So if you're a visual learner, every recipe has an instructional video. We have meal prepping classes, how to read a food label classes. We have guest speakers. We have monthly challenges are the most fun. Everyone loves the monthly challenge. So inside, it's like a little online community family. Everyone in there supports each other. Everyone in there's on the same journey, no matter what their health issues are. The end goal is to eat a little healthier. But when you do it in a group setting, you're more inclined, and you can hold each other accountable, and you're more inclined to stick with it, because when you have a weak moment, you just hop into the group, and then someone is there to encourage you. Someone's there to give you a recipe or a tip. It's just been wonderful. It's called On the Fork. You can go to onthefork.co to learn more about it.
I love it. I love it. Community is everything, because you are 60% or more likely to stick with any new regimen, any new routine, if you walk alongside other people that are doing that as well. Yes. Oh my gosh, this has been such a fun conversation. I love talking all things nutrition, and I love just enlightening and empowering. Like, we are here to empower you to choose you. Yes. To prioritize you, and to know that, again, if your genes have loaded the gun and you're holding on to whatever ailment you have, know that you can take the bullets out of that gun and change simple little habits. And nutrition is one of them. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. How can we find you? You're on Instagram at Shelley Can Help, right?
Yes, Shelley with an EY. So SHELLEY Can Help. And that's my website, and every social media platform is the same. Shelley Can Help. Yeah. Thank you.
I love it. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Thank you so much, my friend.
Absolutely.